The yellow is already built. The orange has been approved for non-conforming use as a shopping mall. I put the blue lines in it because there is some debate about what use has been approved on the fourth floor. In 2014, it was just a site plan, although the approval was subject to the conditions of previous site plans, which were all expansion of a non-conforming use. It was clear in the staff report that what was sought here was to clarify that, and that everything that was to be built and had been built would be shopping center use. If we take away the limitation that was placed in Part A, we would have one building with one legal non-conforming use in it. So, as I look at this, there were no reasons given to deny non-conforming use rights to part of the building. And as my research shows, and wiser minds than I that I've talked to that practice this kind of law, they've never seen such vertical and horizontal parsing of a building into different types of uses. If we don't strike out condition number 6, what we'll have is a building basically in effect that's been spot zoned I-1 in some places and C in others, or shopping center use in others. I don't think that's a precedent we should set. It would also be a precedent that would have to be well supported in the record. There was nobody that opposed this. There was nothing in the record to support such a parsing and a crazy zoning. And it just doesn't make sense from a management point of view, and it's something that staff shouldn't be saddled with either. As staff indicated, actually Mr. Poor indicated at the last hearing, this is a shopping center. We typically do not go into shopping centers and check all the tenants all the time. We don't require them to amend CUPs when they get CUPs. Think of how that would stifle the marketplace. And so what would happen if we were to allow that limitation? If somebody wants to go on the south side, because there'll be a hallway here, if somebody wants a business here, they can have shopping center uses. But if it's on the other side, it can only be I uses. And what a nightmare for staff, what a nightmare for tenants that want to go on the north side or the greenway side, and what a nightmare for the landlord. And if somebody wants to move spaces across the hall or expand, we just get into something that's just really untenable, and literally so. It's going to be, because the lead times for getting CUPs, we're going to clog the various bodies of this of the city council approving all these things, and I just don't think it's where we want to go. This was just just got this today. It's interesting. It's what's great about Minnesota. It's more of a children's book. And why I bring it out is there's the Mall of America in it. But look at what else is in it. Carmel Square. All right? Oh, sorry. Carmel Square. Carmel Square is recognized around the world as something unique and something successful and something wonderful. I'll have, if this isn't stricken down, these many people are going to ask me out here why they're treated differently than every other shopping center in the city. And I have no explanation for it. This is a successful mall. It should be held up as such and treated fairly. And let's not put silly conditions on that just really have no basis. Just all we have to do is strike out that last condition, and we go forward, and everybody will know where we sit, and we don't have to play around with this anymore. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a little unusual to interrupt the public hearing, but I just do want to ask staff to clarify the Planning Commission's actions.
Thank you, Chair Bender. And just to clarify, thank you for the opportunity. The third floor expansion was not approved in any way, shape, or form, regardless of the use that goes into that third floor expansion. An expansion of a non-conforming use is required, and that application is required because the building itself has non-conforming uses within it. So the Planning Commission approved a site plan review application because those expansions that were approved require the approval of a site plan review application in addition to that expansion of a non-conforming use application.
If I can respond to that, because in 2014, there was a site plan approval that I think implicitly included the site plan approval, building permits were issued, it was built. So I think that would be something we would end up having to litigate, but the fact that there were no findings to deny it, and the fact that it had to be, the reasons for the non-conforming use had to be found because it was granted for at least part of the site plan. It was granted for all 4 floors. Some non-conforming use bulk was granted under anybody's interpretation. So necessarily all 6 requirements, which staff found, were found by the Planning Commission. So to deny it without findings for any portion would be arbitrary and capricious.
Okay, let's go ahead and continue with the public hearing, and we can have more discussion after that.
Hi, good morning. My name is Musubi. I'm the owner of the mall. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk before you today and address this matter. It is rather, I shouldn't say confusing, but a little bit misleading, if you will, of an action that was taken by the Planning Commission. And this is, again, not the first time. I have tried to reach out to Council Bender to try to resolve this to save everybody's time, but apparently Ms. Bender is very busy with bigger things. So we could avoid the confrontation and the confusion, and we could reach some kind of an agreement. But again, our representative refuses to meet to discuss this, and here we are today for the third time. A lot of times we deny things because it's going to create massive amount of traffic or it's going to impact the neighborhood in a negative way. Well, I just want you to know that is not the case in here. We have just constructed a $3.5 million parking that accommodate way more than required. We have a surplus parking more than required by the city to accommodate people to park. That was done with zero public funds out of pocket to resolve the issue. Ms. Bender at the end of the last meeting said, well, it is not Mr. Sabri's fault that this mall was created. It was created in the middle of the neighborhood. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back and look at the demographic. And I'm sharing with you the demographic in the picture in here. And if you look, all the yellow is as either a C or a commercial. All the yellow dots surrounding the mall are either C or commercial, with the exception of a spot zoned little fourplex in here and a Park Square condo. In Park Square condo, many of the people here live in there who are patrons of the mall or owners of somewhat either work or own properties. So if you look at the demographic, off Lake Street, it's all commercial, pretty much all commercial. So come back to the C1 or I1 usage. If you look in your chart, in the zoning chart, to what is allowable in the C versus the I1, it's extremely similar in many different ways. The restriction, however, like the council indicated, may create confusion, create a rather more work for the staff and city staff and enforcement agencies as well as me as a landlord. So This was conforming at one time. The zoning have changed to not allow the shopping mall in the I. It allows it in the C. So we are non-conforming. That's what makes us non-conforming. So for us to go back and create a little segregated area in the building, I think the word segregation does not appeal to many people, certainly not to me. To segregate a 5,000 square foot out of a 180 to 200 square foot is rather silly, and they have no merits and it had no findings. Finally, I'd like to bring it to your attention, and I've been in Minnesota for 30 some years, and I almost become to be a Minnesotan, I should say, more than where I came from. But I have to say this, that in 1948, Hubert Humphrey, who was the mayor of the city of Minneapolis at the time, have introduced, and later on become to be the vice president and the governor, introduced an ordinance that will protect Jews in the city of Minneapolis. And why was that? Because Jews were picked on. They could not do business in certain parts of the city. And that was the main reason why Hubert Humphrey introduced that ordinance, to protect people and give people equality. And I don't like to play that card. I cannot see a reason why we should be denied to build and allow and enjoy and perish the city of Minneapolis and be treated like everybody else in the city of Minneapolis. Many of our tenants are growing. Many of our tenants are getting different new ideas. This is their home. They spend more time in there, more than they spend with their families. This is the home of many immigrants and the home of many Somalis. And it means a lot to them. Not just to me as an owner of the property. I1C1, really, to me, it doesn't make a huge sense to segregate. And I'm asking you to revisit it and read, with all due respect for staff, Jason, I think you misread it. And I think you need to look at it again. I'm challenging that you, without attention, let's say, let's read what passed. Let's try to resolve it. This is not, it shouldn't be a controversial, rather, matter. It really shouldn't. It's very silly. It is very silly of a matter. So let's read what's passed. Let's all agree to what the language meant and what's the interpretation of it. I mean, we asked city attorneys, we asked many other people who are present. I think they differ on Jason Willenberg's interpretation and Lisa Bender's interpretation. They really differ. So I'm encouraging you, again, to read what passed, and let's just move on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Now we'll move to whomever would like to speak. So if you'd like to speak, please come up and state your name and address for the record. We will ask each person to stay within the 2 minutes, please, so we can continue with our business.
Good morning. My name is Mohammed Kali. I'm executive director for Somali American community. I live this city almost last 8 years. I just want to share with you my personal experience. I used to have small business, coffee shop for Carmel Mall. After a couple of years, I made good money. Now I have my own business, different places. We're building our own businesses somewhere else. So I just want to tell you is, this is a Somali community business. This is very well known all in the world. So what I'm asking you is, we do have a lot of people don't speak language, don't know the culture, but this is where they can learn. This business is from the Somali community to the Somali community. All the university, they send a lot of students to know more about Somali community. This is where they welcome and learn about our culture, our value, how we do business. So when I look the history, we look the parking. Last 2-3 months, we got almost over 500 tickets for around that mall. Now we build our own parking. We're getting what we need. And what we will ask you, he's the owner, but 100% we the people benefit this business. This is not enough to us. So we need more, and we need to support this business, please. And however you do, we look the record, we look other businesses, how you guys deal with it. That's what we're expecting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person, please come up. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Yusuf. I'm so happy this morning to see beautiful faces. I'm I'm a business owner and represent the Mosque of the Carmel Mall. I have something beautiful to hear and to tell you guys. We pray that mosque 5 times a day, and every time we put our face in the floor, we say, "My God bless America. My God bless community of Minnesota and Twin Cities." We represent to you our prayer. We not only as every single living Twin Cities and Minneapolis. And we urge you to come over there and see. That is the place you come and rest and see. We need permission to extension little place, and that is for the guests of coming Carmel Mall. I hope deeply in your heart you will accept our obligation and you will give us permission. My God bless America. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next person, please come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Webb. I represent from the ground up consultants, but a large portion of my client base is within the Somali community, also within Latino community and the Hmong community. You could probably tell by my stature, I played a little basketball. I traveled, and I was grateful enough to come to Minneapolis, one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And even more blessed and humbled to be able to work with one of the fastest growing communities within Minneapolis. And I've been here for about 5.5 years, and all I have seen was forward motion and progress. While living in Japan a few years, I noticed the art of bonsai, and I always wondered, how did they do that? And what they do is they just kind of keep snipping around, and the stalk grows thicker, but the bush doesn't grow. And when I heard about this, I took mind to that, because this mall, this is an incubator for success, you know, and it's also a business model that will be able to, Minneapolis will be able to herald to Chicago and the likes of Milwaukee. It's saying, hey, you know what? We understand we have inclement weather. Thank God it's beautiful today, but for the next 4 or 5 months, it's going to be cold. And street traffic is going to go down. And for people that are merchants, this is a perfect blessing. And thank God for Mr. Sabri, who had the forward thinking and the vision to accommodate many people that have come here and have just come on their last breath and their last hope. And I think this is a great opportunity for Minneapolis as a city to show, hey, our eagerness to help and to cultivate the minorities that do come and the immigrants that do come, and for the people who, like the name of my company, From the Ground Up, who are humble and are willing to work very difficult jobs just to go to the next level. So I think this is a great opportunity for the city to show its willingness and support to people who want to go to the next level, because what is it said, that the individual gives to the community what is due. And so all of these individuals are standing in support of Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Ali. I'm one of the store owners there, and we have a couple of businesses over there. Carmel Mall is amazing to us. My mom has a store there. She has been there for almost 10 years. And I tell her, take off, do something, take off, don't go to the mall today. But that's the place for her to enjoy and to have fun and to relax, actually, instead of just the mall. For the last 6 months, I've been around the mall. I've seen a lot of people, American people, who come there. They do henna, they shop from there, they find, cheap stuff. They find quality, good stuff there as well. It's amazing. I encourage all of you guys to come and see. And if it's not too much to ask, And if it's not, based on safety issue, approve us what we need, because that place is very, very nice and we enjoy, all of us. Like yesterday, I was telling my friends, I wanted to take off and I wanted to stay home and spend time with my kids. And I ended up in Carmel Mall the whole day telling people I'm off today while I'm there at the Carmel Mall. It's a place we enjoy, a place we call home, and a place that reminds us the back home that we lost. And it looks like anybody from Africa, East Africa, when they come there, say, this reminds us back home. This reminds us where we came from. So I'm asking you guys, if it's not too much to ask, it's not safety purposes, grant us what we need, because that mall is going to make history. And that's what we call, home as well. And that's a business that's booming. And so many young generation are coming in Carmel Mall, doing a lot of different ideas, doing a lot of things that, and we call that our Mall of America. I know we go to Mall of America, we enjoy it, but this is our Mall of America. We have 4-level parking. We have, successful businesses there, and we're going to go forward. So don't let us down and give us what we need. And thank you very much. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hello again. I'm Scott Nelson, architect for Sabri Properties. I'd like to address briefly the question that I think will probably merit some further discussion here, in that Mr. Sabri's appeal is based on the use of what he thought was the third floor that was agreed to be expanded. In the part of the Planning Commission action, the B site plan review was approved, the first floor expansion of 451, the second floor of 993, the third floor of 6,607. I have the plan of 6,607 includes this piece in question, in addition to the pieces in the interior of the mall. And then when the condition was added, the condition 6, to not allow the part on the north to be the non-conforming use, would limit the uses of that. Thus, our appeal was about the condition that the non-conforming use be allowed, but in fact that the addition would be allowed at all. So if that's the case, that's certainly something we need to discuss. I'd also like to add that as architects for the mall, we've been working on this thing since it started in 2004. There's a lot of other controls and codes and things, as we have to work very carefully through with plan review and the building departments to make sure that all of the required exiting is done, and that the occupant loads are such, and stairs and things of that nature are provided, restrooms. The mall's been an ever-changing thing ever since it opened, and it's been very successful. The folks love it. If you've never been there, I'd encourage you to go. It's interesting that it's in that new book. But I think it's really important that we are allowed to be able to do different types of use on that third floor addition. If there's any questions, certainly.
Okay, thank you. No questions? There are no questions. Would anyone else like to speak? Make sure the community folks get a chance to testify if they'd like.
My name is Mohammed. I'm the business owner of Carmel. I'm here to ask you that we need your support for the extension on the north side of the building and third floor. The reason is we like to have the more diversity business we have, the more traffic we'll have. So I would like you to support us, because the reason this mall is only also represents Minnesota a lot of difference. I remember, and like Sweden and Norway, they're talking about the immigrant, something like that. And I remember they come like 2 years ago to look at how immigrants was creating jobs in Minneapolis and doing it. So they send a lot of legislation is from the cities, state level and federal level, and a lot of business people and a lot of journalism. They all come to the Carmel Mall to see how we do in there. And the stage was 3 days asking us what to do and things like that. So that means we are become a role model from around the world. Carmel has become a role model how to immigrants integrate to the communities and establish business themselves and become contributionists for taxi-wise, business-wise and growing the economically into the city. So that's why I was saying it. Once you allow us to expand it, that means you're expanding our economic and the city economic too. So that's my reason and I'm asking. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Amal. I had a business since 2007 in Carmel Square. I also live close by in Park Square condominium. An American citizen, I vote. My family votes too. And one of the earlier people that took chances on the second floor when not a lot of people used to come there. They only knew the second floor. That mall changed a lot of people's lives. You can go to Africa, Kenya, and people know the name of Carmel Square Mall. You can go to China, people know Carmel Mall. For you guys, maybe it's somebody to deny or to approve. For a lot of people, it's the place to be, it's the business to pursue. For elderlies, for young people like me or younger than me, start designing fashion designs and clothing and all of that because Carmel Mall made it possible. If you guys could do anything, it's just helping us to even make it better and better and better. We add to city of Minneapolis. Somalis are successful because of what the city and the state offers. Everybody that I know of that come to the States, their dream is coming to Minneapolis. And the reason is how things are successful here. Without the city and the state won't be possible. When it comes to Mr. Sabri, he took a lot of chances and spent a lot of his money, I'm very sure, to make things happen for us. He did well, we did well. So it's a win-win situation for Somali community and for Mr. Sabri. I would really ask you guys if you can make a difference. The Star Tribune came and was trying to write about the Somali young people's success and businesses. I'm the one of people that they were pursuing to. I'm a shy person, so it is my first time talking in public. And then they were trying to know what made all those young people come here and do this. Please read it. It was focused on women only. And then we all quoted a lot of beautiful things that happened to us of success through Carmel Mall and because of our state and our city. So please help as much as you guys can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Anyone else? Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Mr. Wittenberg.
Chair Bender, committee members, it's become more clear exactly where the point of confusion apparently is here, in that when the Planning Commission restricted the expansion of non-conforming use through a condition of approval, they did not take the sort of extra step of subtracting that floor area out from their site plan review approval. Our position is that it's clear that the Planning Commission's intent was that the third floor expansion on the Greenway side of the building simply is not allowed based on that being the more restrictive action of the two Planning Commission actions. But apparently that has led to some confusion.
Thank you, Mr. Wittenberg. As a member of the Planning Commission, that was certainly my intention when voting. I think part of the thing to note is that I can't remember if it was at a hearing, but certainly at the CPC Cal meeting previously, we had discussed the idea of potentially allowing expansion of uses that are allowed as of right in the industrial zone. But we had decided, based on recommendations from our attorney and staff, that that was not an appropriate action to take for a lot of reasons. And so I don't think the Planning Commission's intention was to take that action, potentially specifically based on that advice we had been given from attorney and staff.
I think that's correct, Chair Bender. Certainly we have the authority to say that the building can be expanded, but only with occupying uses that are allowed in the district. But it seems pretty clear, especially after Mr. Poore cautioned against some of the pitfalls of going that route, that the Planning Commission chose to not sort of differentiate between what uses would be allowed in the expansion.
Okay, thank you. I will see if there are further questions, but I am going to move to deny the appeal and speak to why. Denying this appeal does not negate the existence of this building, which is a community asset. It provides a lot of retail space. It provides significant community gathering space. And it now includes a mosque that was approved as an expansion by the Planning Commission just last year. So this is the second expansion that has come before this council of this building. During the testimony, we heard a lot about what this building is in the community. It's a regional destination like the Mall of America. It's a community gathering space, and again, now it contains a mosque as well, which is allowed as of right. This is a very high intensity use in an area that is not zoned for that level of intensity. This is not an activity center. It's not C3A zoning. Those, in my opinion, would be more appropriate for this level of intensity of use. And that intensity of use has impacts on the community, which I would use to, in the findings, and we'll direct staff to prepare findings based on this motion. But we know that rezoning of the property, I mean, staff has not recommended rezoning of this property. If staff or others felt it was appropriate to create a commercial zone here, that would be in front of us, and it is not. Staff has not found that it would be appropriate to zone this for commercial intensity, higher intensity commercial use. So I think the findings related to intensification within the context, so that would be finding number 3 in particular, that it would not, I don't believe the finding has been met that it will not result in significant increase of adverse off-site impacts such as traffic noise, dust, odors, and parking congestion. The applicant has built a parking ramp as part of a previous expansion. Again, there was a significant expansion approved just very recently, but there are additional impacts, including